Honda three-wheeler. So I rode around on one of those since I was probably in diapers. I remember popping wheelies on that thing as like an 8-year-old kid that was way too big.
Wow, man, that is crazy.
So I remember going, just crying my eyes out, circling the field over and over and over till I finally was able to shift and keep it from dying without falling down. I talk to my dad about it all the time. Like, remember when you made me do that? He goes, yeah, did you learn how to ride? Sure did.
Oh, wow.
I've got pictures of my sister and I riding it in diapers. So
oh, wow, that's crazy.
Pretty
Yeah.
young.
Yeah. Sucked up under the trailer, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know what to do because I'm teaching myself to ride. Nobody taught me how to ride or anything. I said, I wrecked my bike and it's in my leg. He said, boy, get back out there and get on that bike. Don't be coming in here acting like that. I was like, what? I'm bleeding. It's like, no, get out there and get back on that bike and you can ride. Don't be like that.
I'm trying to mark cars, trying to get speeders.
And
an 18-wheeler passed by and almost blows me over.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're doing it again.
Yeah.
I looked at your sign over here. Born to ride, forced to work. Well, yeah. I get to ride and work at the same time. So.
All right, guys, welcome to RJ Production, the podcast. And today I have a very, very, very special guest, exciting guest. I have Officer Merritt with the Arlington PD Motor Unit, and he is here today to talk to us about all kinds of things. We're going to talk about him starting out on motorcycles, how he got into the police department. We're going to talk about where the police department motor unit is going. We're going to talk about some of his experiences as a motor officer. So it's going to be a great interview. Stay tuned for all of the exciting things that we're going to talk about in this interview. We're going to get to know Officer Merritt a lot more and know a lot more about the Arlington PD. And so for you guys that have always been interested in that and what it's like to get involved, what the experience is like, we're doing this for guys that may want to join a police department or go to the motor academy. Also for guys that are not really interested in that, just basically you want to understand how the motor officers become very good motorcycle riders and some of the safeties, some of the accident things to look out for. We're going to talk about that as far as what he sees on the road, especially involving guys like us that ride motorcycles and things that we need to be aware of, things that to be safer on our bikes. And so he's going to give us a lot of experience on that. Also, guys, we actually went out and shot some video of Officer Merritt doing some motor maneuvers for us on the motorcycles. And so that video is also going to be on the channel. So make sure you look for that. It's going to be really cool. He showed us a lot of good maneuvers that were super tight, areas that I aspire to be a better rider at. So
we're always trying to be better at.
That's right. And if we know we all have opportunities where we can always be better. Yep. And I guess a lot of that is about practice, and we'll talk about that a little bit. All right. So first of all, I'd like to thank you, Officer Merritt, for taking the time out to come out and just spend some time with us.
Thank you for inviting me. Great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get into it. So let's start from the beginning. Let's kind of talk about your journey, like when you had your first motorcycle, or like what got you started interested in bikes when you were young.
So I know that the old Big Red, I don't know if you guys remember that three-wheeler. It was an old Honda three-wheeler.
Okay, yeah.
So I rode around on one of those since I was probably in diapers.
Okay.
We had one of those as a kid. I remember popping wheelies on that thing if you weren't careful.
Yeah.
It'd throw you off over the back of it. So that's where I kind of got started on as far as motorcycles go, three-wheelers.
Okay.
And then after that, my first dirt bike that I ever got was an old 175 Yamaha trail bike.
Okay.
So I think it was like an 82, 83 model.
Uh-huh.
So I rode around on that dirt bike. It was way too big for me.
You said it was a 175?
175.
Wow, yeah.
As like an 8-year-old kid, that was way too big.
Wow, man, that is crazy.
But, it got me on there, got me learning and all that kind of stuff. I remember having to lean it to the side to put my foot down just to stop.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of younger kids do that on the bigger bikes where they even have one of the little milk carton things where they stand on and hop on it and ride and hop off. And yeah, I've seen a lot of them do that. And I started my first motorcycle riding, dirt bike riding when I was 16. So I was a bigger guy, so I never had that problem. My problem was starting off with a little too small of a bike, but probably needed it.
Yeah, funny story is my dad. So I had the 175 Yamaha. It didn't have as much pop to it, but my dad had the 250 Honda.
Okay.
And it had a lot of power to it. And I don't know, if that's the way they sold it or if that's the way he just had it, but he did not have the kickstand on it.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I know on that bike was way taller. And he told me, hey, you're gonna learn how to ride today. Put me on that, and I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't set my feet
You couldn't set your feet down.
And so I remember going, just crying my eyes out, circling the field over and over and over till I finally was able to shift and keep it from dying without falling down. So
oh wow! So you can hop off.
Yep, that's kind of my. I remember that. I talk to my dad about it all the time. It's like, remember when you made me do that? He goes, yeah. Did you learn how to ride? Sure did.
Oh wow, that's crazy. No, I know what you mean because I think it's a lot of the track bikes or whatever. They don't have kickstands.
Yep.
You got to have that little piece to slide in the back wheel, and then a lot of the trail bikes, I know they have like the kickstands and everything on it. Yeah. And do you remember if it was like a 2-stroke or it was a 4-stroke? You remember?
Can't even remember.
Gotcha, yeah. So my first bike was a 2-stroke, which was, mix of oil and gas and everything together. So it was a Honda 100, I believe what it was, like a trail bike. And, but yeah, and I had that thing. And so like, that 2-stroke, you'll be going along, going pretty fast, all of a sudden it'll kind of hit and the power band and you're like, it goes a lot faster.
Yep.
But yeah, that was most of my early bikes were dirt bikes when I got started was 2-strokes just because they were a lot more affordable than a 4-stroke,
Yeah.
And nowadays these 4-strokes have become so much more powerful and so much more popular and like a lot of people have switched over to those 4-strokes,
Yeah, that 175 Yamaha, I had it for years, rode through many creeks, rode through many trails, we rode together. That's kind of the bike that I got started on. That 175, yep.
No, that's cool. And you said you were around 8 years old, 8, 9?
Probably around that age. I remember before that was on the 3-wheeler.
It was on the 3-wheeler,
Yeah, and I rode that all over too as
Yeah.
well. And that was a big 3-wheeler for that young of a kid.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of my sister and I riding it in diapers. So
oh wow, that's
we're
crazy.
pretty
Yeah.
young, so.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. And then so let's talk about how long have you been on the police officer and then how long have you been in the motor patrol motor unit?
So I've been with the police department coming up on 10 years.
Okay.
And then with the motorcycle unit this January, so next month it'll be 5 years.
Okay,
so
awesome.
half of my career has basically been on the motorcycle.
Okay. And was that something that you always, when you started as a police officer or kind of got into that, did you aspire to be on the motor unit or was that something you really didn't think about at first and it just kind of happened? How did that happen?
I never really thought about it. I always saw the motorcycle officers and saw that they were so hot in the summer and cold in the winter. And I was like, nah, I don't want any part of that because these vests are already hot enough. It's just going to be stinky and smelly.
Yeah.
And what do they do all day? All they're doing is traffic and writing tickets.
Right.
So I thought to myself, I don't know if I want to do that. But as I got a little bit into my career, I started looking for what was the most convenient for my family life and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And the motorcycle unit has definitely been a great decision for that.
Okay.
Able to work during the day, have the weekends off, able to work extra jobs, part-time jobs whenever needed. So
yeah. So you learned a lot about kind of what it was to be one once you got into the police department.
Correct.
And kind of saw some of the benefits of it and things like that.
Yes.
Okay. And so when it comes to what does a schedule for you guys look like? Do you guys have like a 24-hour unit or y'all just go during the day? How does that usually look?
So we work day shift.
Okay.
And it's mainly it's a safety issue.
Okay. When traffic and things are the most heaviest.
Well, so at night people don't see motorcycles.
Okay.
Obviously, so
got it.
Working traffic at night is just unsafe.
Got it.
And so being on a motorcycle to that is just going to be even more unsafe. So
got it.
We work 7 to 5.
Okay.
And then half the unit has Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. And then half the unit has Saturday, Sunday, Monday off.
Oh, okay.
So we work 4 10-hour shifts.
Okay. And so do y'all rotate that or how does that work?
It's at a bid every year.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So
okay.
based on seniority in the department, you can bid your schedule and then also bid your side of town. We have 4 sides of town, northeast, south, and west.
Okay.
There's 4 motorcycle units on each side of town.
Oh, okay.
And then 2 motorcycle sergeants that cover half of those each.
Half of those each.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So what was the first motorcycle that you purchased?
So whenever I turned 16, I had these dirt bikes all growing up. When I turned 16, It wasn't maybe 6 weeks after that I got my Class M endorsement.
Oh, wow.
So it was very soon after that. And my dad, he had already bought me, it was a Kawasaki 400.
Okay.
So I had a street bike ready to go that I'd already, started riding. Because I lived out in the country in the back roads, so I'd already started riding it. And then once I got my license, I was ready to go. So that was the first street bike that I rode a lot. It's like an 81 or 82 Kawasaki 400 little roadster. And so from there, I hadn't, my dad had a VMAX growing up. He had the Midnight Special.
Okay,
I don't know if you remember that old bike, Yamaha Midnight Special. So he had those bikes. So if I needed to ride something, I just rode those bikes.
Right.
Well, he got that VMAX right around the time I was graduating high school.
Okay.
And he decided that I needed something to be able to keep up with him. So from there, I got on a crotch rocket.
Okay.
I know it's, shunned upon around here, but
He got you.
So got on it was a Gixxer 600,
Oh, wow.
GSXR 600.
Yes.
A Suzuki.
You remember what year that was?
It was a 2002.
2002. Okay, yeah, I know that body style well.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very popular.
It was the black with yellow.
Okay, yeah.
Rather than the reverse. It was the yellow and black one. Mine was the black with yellow.
Okay, got it.
And so I rode that with him. We would ride out to Possum Kingdom a lot. That's kind of I lived out towards west, Weatherford area.
Okay.
And we would ride up to Possum Kingdom and back all the time. That was our normal route that we would ride together.
Okay.
So then I graduated high school. That was what kind of his graduation present for me was.
That's awesome.
That Gixxer.
Yeah.
And then so I rode that all through college. Ended up meeting my wife. We moved into an apartment and it got stolen.
Oh man.
So once that bike got stolen, I was kind of off the bike for a while.
Yeah.
I would ride my dad's here and there whenever I would want to go on motorcycle rides. But then it wasn't until I got on the motorcycle unit when I actually bought my own motorcycle.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So this police motorcycle that I ride now is the first bike that I actually, purchased myself.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So that's kind of the thing with the motorcycle unit in Arlington. That's what we do is we buy them and the city leases it back from us.
Oh, okay. So the city doesn't actually provide the bikes for you guys.
Correct.
But you guys buy your own bikes.
Correct. We finance it and they lease it back from us.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like almost like a stipend situation.
Yep.
Almost.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. So this was your first bike that you actually purchased yourself. Man, that's crazy. Got a Harley, and then we're gonna get into that in a little bit, kind of how it was like transitioning from just a civilian rider to the motor unit, motorcade, all that. But one of the things I wanted to touch back on what you were saying is that. So that Gixxer was your first bike that your dad bought for you as a gift for a graduation in high school. And so that's pretty cool that, your dad rode a lot. And so he was already into motorcycle, because most people that I meet, that's not really their experience. It's not the experience that their dad or anybody allowed them to get their license like at 16 and go out and ride motorcycles, because, a lot of parents are scared or wary, things like that. And so even with me, I bought my first dirt bike at 16. Now I lived in country. And so I did ride it on the road a little bit and things like that. But they didn't allow me or help. My dad didn't ride motorcycles, anything like that. And so, but I have met a few guys where their dads and parents rode motorcycles and they did get their license at a young age. And so that's pretty cool. And then it's crazy that you say the Gixxer. That was like the bike that I always, one of the bikes I wanted was a Gixxer.
Yep.
My first bike, motorbike, a road bike, was a Suzuki Katana.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I was in Louisiana, and it was a friend of mine I worked with there. His brother had it, and his brother it was kind of a beater. It wasn't like anything fancy, but his brother had it and was just having fun on it. Was looking to sell it, and I bought it, and it had been repainted and everything. But I got to learn how to ride, and so I'll tell you my first experience. You tell me yours, but this was you rode a lot more than me, so it probably wasn't as bad. But my first experience on getting on the road. So I rode around the back roads for a while. Did that, no big deal at all. That's how I grew up in the country. But even where I grew up in the country, even on the highway, like it's so slow. It's so many, you hardly pass cars, things like that. But in Louisiana, I was right there close to Slidell, and in Slidell, the first time I was like, okay, I'm ready for the big road. So I went out got onto the highway. And when I got on the highway, it was my first time on the highway with a road bike like that. You know, I'm rolling, I'm kind of creeping a little slow. I'm probably going like 60 miles an hour or whatnot. And then all of a sudden, one of these 18-wheelers just passed me by, and it's just sucking me under. I feel like I'm about to get sucked up under the trailer. And I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, I don't know what to do because I'm teaching myself to ride. Nobody taught me how to ride or anything. So finally, I gassed the throttle just a little bit, and it starts to pull me away. And I'm like, and I learned that, okay, if I throttle it, it'll like keep me from getting sucked under, because the slower I was going, the more it was pulling me. And man, I remember pulling away. I got off the highway real quick, went back home. I remember exactly. I parked the bike, put it on the kickstand, stepped back to the side and looked at it and was like, I don't know if this is for me. And that was my thought. And then right after that, I was like, nah, I can't be like that. I can't be a punk like that. And you know, I just now telling you this story made me think back to why that probably happened. Is when I was probably I was thinking it was around Christmas time, when I was probably 8 or 9, maybe somewhere around 8 or 7, 9. I had a bicycle and I was riding out in the rain doing crazy stuff. And then I skid and slid, and I skid and slid my knee really bad. It was bleeding and everything. And I come in the house, and my dad said, what's wrong with me? I was limping, I'm doing all this. My dad's like, what's wrong with you? I said, I wrecked my bike and it hurt my leg. He said, boy, get back out there and get on that bike. Don't be coming in here acting like that. I was like, what? I'm bleeding. It's like, no, get out there and get back on that bike and you can ride. Don't be like that. I was like, what? I'm tears coming out my eyes. I get back, I got to ride the bike and I'm thinking, what the heck? But that moment, I always look back to that moment anytime I face adversity, or I feel like, you know, something is tough, or I can't do it, or I have that doubt. I just remember my dad instilling that toughness in me that, yeah, just because you skin your leg, you have a little accident, that's all right. Get back up and get back on it. And that's how you learn. That's how you grow. And so that was that moment. And I just kind of, you know, thought about my dad. I was like, no, I'm not going to let this beat me. I know I can do this. And I got back on it.
You know, as you were building up to your situation on the highway, I knew that's exactly where you were going.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
I think we all kind of have that same experience. The first time you pass an 18-wheeler, or
yes.
you come up on an 18-wheeler, that wind, you're like, whoa, is this really happening?
Yes.
But yeah, that's why it's not a good idea to stay beside those guys. They can't see you for one thing, and there is a lot of wind.
A lot of wind.
I know sometimes when I'm sitting on the highway, like trying to mark cars, trying to get speeders, and an 18-wheeler passed by and almost blows me over.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they're doing it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we learned so much from our dad. I mean, my dad, I remember kind of the same funny story. We had a lot of acreage, and as a small kid, I was scared of the dark, I guess.
Okay, got it.
And
yeah.
so what does he do? We go back, and as it started getting dark, he's like, all right, you're walking back to the house by yourself. And I had to walk all the way across that acreage all by myself, listening to the things scurry in the bushes.
In the bushes, yeah.
And so yeah, no longer scared of the dark.
Right, but that's, you know, that's the great thing about having really great dads that like have backbone, you know, and like instill toughness and like take that fear, because I get it, you know, it's not for everybody. But the thing is that, you know, we need men that are strong and that are not scared, because we need guys like you, police officers that, you know, can protect us and go into where trouble is happening, you know, and that there has to be something inside of you that pushes you and drives you to not be afraid to go into a building with a shooter, to go after a criminal that may, you know, harm other people and other people's families. And so like, that's huge. And so that's why, you know, I love doing this interview and getting people to talk, because I'm hoping that there's some young men that see this and like, they're inspired, you know, by the stories that we talk about, by your stories, and about they can do it. And because we need that, we need continued strong men, good people to be in the police department to protect us, our country, the people. So, I mean, military, same thing. So these stories matter. I mean, these moments matter.
Yeah,
you know?
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, that's cool. So yeah, it's very, very good story. Just kind of learning that experience. And like, so one of the things, guys, like if you're starting out on a motorcycle and you get afraid, or you get ready to get on the highway, now you kind of know the story. And all of you guys that are out there are already riding, very experienced. If you have friends that are thinking about riding and getting a motorcycle, one, encourage them to do the training. And then two, let them know about these things, right? Because I think if somebody would have told me and prepared me for it, it would have been such a big deal. I would have already knew what to do. And we'll get into some things that because a lot of stuff I did, I just taught myself. I didn't have anybody to show me. And so I remember, like, Brooks. So I kind of helped Brooks get into the motorcycle world. So I let him ride one of my bikes, and I wasn't a very good teacher and a very good coach. And so I just like, you can get on there and shift the gears, and like, it's easy. Like, I thought I was just through, and he dropped the bike. We'll get it. He's going to do one of these. We're getting that story. But however, after that, I told him to go take the class at the Harley Davidson training, and he did that. So it helped him a lot. He was a lot better. And then when we first got him out on the highway, I did tell him that story. So he was prepared and told him what to do to get out of it. And so it made him be able to conquer that fear and be prepared when that happened. And it made it I think it made his transition a lot easier. So that's one of the things that the channel is about, just education, letting people know things like that, because, we don't want motorcycle riding and the experience and the joy to be a lost art, or things that young men don't get to experience. Because I know, like you, probably like me, like, I love the passion of motorcycle riding. It's so fun. It's such an experience that you can't really explain. You just have to experience it, and then
Yep. That's why, I looked at your sign over here. It's born to ride, forced to work. Well, yeah. I get to ride and work at the same time. So
yes.
Perfect job.
Perfect job. No, that's awesome. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing the channel, like, because I have my regular job, my day job, which is great, and I get to help people, and it's really good. But this right here is so much fun to me. It's not like work. I mean, it is work involved, but it's just, I have a passion for it, so it's just fun, and I love talking about motorcycles and the experiences and everything. So, okay, now we're gonna shift gears a little bit. So out of all of the motorcycles that you've ridden, things like that, what's your favorite motorcycle all time, maybe that you've had, and then maybe your favorite motorcycle that in the future you would love to have? Tell me a little bit about that.
So that 600 Gixxers, because I had it for so long.
Yes.
And I, that was my college times, and I was I was riding it during that time. So I really liked that bike. What would I want to have? I don't know. I guess now that I've kind of mellowed out, one of these CVOs would be nice.
Okay, yeah.
So eventually, maybe one of those bikes.
Yeah. No, I can understand. That's kind of how I go back and forth, because back in the days, like you, sport bikes, crotch rods, because that's what I had. I had, Ninja 600 was my first nice bike. I wanted a Gixxer at that time, but just couldn't find one that was in my price range, because they were really popular back then. So I had an 02 Ninja 600. And so that was my first bike. I think I got it for like $2,500 or $3,000, somewhere around there. But I always wanted a Gixxer, and I kept looking for them, trying to find them. But later on, I ended up, my first 1000 was a Gixxer 1000. I had an 05 Gixxer 1000, and I bought it used too. And I love that bike. It was an awesome bike. It was probably one of my favorite bikes. I ended up with, later on, Hayabusa. I got the Ninja, the ZX12, all that. I like the ZX12 better than the Hayabusa. The Hayabusa, I don't know, it maybe just the setup wasn't right when I had it, but it just wasn't my favorite bike. But now I've kind of switched over to the Harley and world, and I will tell you, like, I had bought that Street Glide, was my first Harley. It's a great bike, but I put a lot of money and things into it, and I remember seeing the CVOs thinking, who would pay that much for the CVO? Like, that's crazy. That's a lot of money to pay, and you could get the same bike. It's not big, it's not that much of a difference. But little did I know, because on sport bikes, we don't do a lot of customization on those. But on these Harleys, there's so much customization and fit and things you can do to make the bike so much more comfortable and like personalized to you, as the way it handles, maneuvers, rides, all of those things that now that I have a CVO, I understand. And after having my other bike, I understood why the CVO costs what they cost. And there's so many things that I've already done to the bikes that you don't even have to do a lot of upgrades. There's a few little things that you do, and it makes it really, really, great. And so you kind of buy it ready out of the box, so to speak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so switching gears, kind of going back to your professional journey. So I know you said that you started out, wasn't really looking to get on to the motor unit, just kind of, working through. But as you experienced that, you kind of saw that some opportunities and benefits for that. So tell us a little bit about like why you guys typically only use Harley Davidson and kind of what that looks like, and if there's something in the future where you may see that changing. Just curious about that.
Yeah, so I think whenever the stadium came, they knew that we would be doing a lot of escorts.
Okay.
I'm talking ATT Stadium here in Arlington.
Okay.
So whenever that stadium came, they knew that we would be doing a lot of escorts for the NFL teams, for concerts, celebrities, whatever the case may be.
Right.
So they wanted a lot of uniformity.
Okay.
And at that time is when they chose the Harley Electric Glide.
Okay.
So ever since then, if you're in the motorcycle unit, that's the only bike that you can have.
Oh, okay, got it. So that's the only one y'all can have. That way y'all look all uniformed, everything. No, that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
And is that something that you see across a lot of other police departments? Do they typically all use the same bikes, or does some police departments kind of have a lot of variance on that?
I did a little bit of work down in Houston during the hurricanes, and I know their bikes down there, they had several different bikes that they could use. But I think around here that I know of, most of the departments, they're all BMWs, or they're all the Electric Glide, or they're all the Road King.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's what you see the most. Okay. All right, so tell us about the training. Like, what is that like? Like, where did you go to school? Did you guys have an option? Was it just through Arlington? Was there other departments in? Like, tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
So 5 years ago, whenever I came into the department or into the motorcycle unit, we were doing the Northwestern, which is basically the Harley standards.
Okay.
Geared towards police motorcycles. Now we've changed to LEAMS, which is Law Enforcement Motor Standards.
Okay.
I think that one was created by Highway Patrol.
Okay.
So that's the standards that you go through. It's 80 hours, so 2 weeks worth of just training.
Okay.
Arlington's a big enough city that we have instructors that are certified to teach other motor officers.
Oh, okay.
So didn't need to go to any other schools or any other cities.
Got it.
They just put on the city. They host a school.
Okay.
So in my school, we had one other person from a different agency that came in. There was only 3 of us in the entire school.
Wow.
So a lot of one-on-one work with us.
Okay.
You got to think about it. They got 2 weeks to get us up to speed. So
Yeah.
doing some of these maneuvers where you might take a whole day on one maneuver, just over and over and over till you finally get it.
Wow. So is it all pretty much just riding, or some of it a little classroom, or how does it go?
Both. There's classroom portions where they talk about safety, talk about nomenclature of the bike. For instance, we call it a kickstand. Well, in the motor world, because we ride Harleys, it's the Jiffy stand, because that's what they call the Jiffy stand inside the manuals, right? So,
okay, yeah.
So nomenclature, a little bit of maintenance on the bike, rules, taking care of your motorcycle. We also do throttle commands. So if we're riding 2x2 or side by side, if the front left person is the one in charge and he decides that we want to turn right, we give a throttle command. Okay. So you throttle up, he hears it, your partner hears it, they throttle, they look, and they go together. So if we want to turn left, it's 2 throttles, 2 revs of the engine. Okay, now we're looking, and now we're going to turn together. So they learn all those little different things in motor school. Escorting is another thing you got to learn, safety portions of the escort. That's not necessarily all. There is a portion of motor school that talks about escorts, but then once they're done with motor school, then they also have a motor or escort training they go through as well. We go through as well.
Kind of an extra as a side course,
Because that's probably the most dangerous thing that we do is the escorts.
Really?
We're going through traffic super fast. You got cars moving. We're stopping traffic. That's the dangerous one.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought that. Yeah.
Takes a while to get used to. So that it becomes natural and you kind of just flow.
Wow, man, that's pretty cool. No, I wouldn't have thought that, but now that you say it, it makes sense. Because there's so much traffic and you got to stop, and there's a lot going on, and everybody's got to be on the same page too. I bet. Yeah,
within the last month or whatever, there was an officer, or I guess last 2 weeks ago, there was an officer that got killed on an escort. So
wow, okay.
So yeah, that's dangerous.
No, man,
A
wow.
lot of fun too. You get to go fast, right?
Right,
So
right.
I know a lot of times motorcycle riders like to go fast.
Yes.
Well, I get to go fast legally.
Legally,
right? So,
do, yeah. No, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, and then tell us a little bit about how, I know you guys do work a lot of traffic and everything, but what happens, like, what type of training do you do, like, when you're doing traffic or something and something goes wrong and, you know, you got to give a chase, or, you know, how do you guys support maybe other calls where there's something going on that's other than the motor traffic? Like, how does all of that look?
So we're out there, we're listening to the same radio.
Okay.
And so if we're near a call where something's going on, we're needed, we can jump on that call and go help out.
Okay.
As far as chasing, you know, we can chase for the same thing that a four-wheel vehicle can.
Okay.
But once a four-wheel vehicle gets into the pursuit,
Okay.
we have to peel off.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
We can't continue in.
Just for y'all safety.
Just for our safety, yeah. So, you know, our main purpose is to enforce traffic, do traffic enforcement. You know, road safety is our most important objective, but we're also still a police officer. So
Right.
if somebody needs a backup, or if we're near a call, or somebody calls us or flags us down or whatever, we still respond.
We'll respond.
Yep.
Okay. Were there any like unique, like particular memorable moments during your training that stands out to you? Like something that was like, man, I didn't expect this, or like they showed you was gonna do something, you're like, I'm supposed to do that. You know, what's something that kind of stood out to you, or experience story that you have?
Yeah, you know, you get these, you know, $25,000 motorcycles, and then, you know, you buy that, and it's like, hey, I just spent a lot of money on this,
Right.
or I'm spending a lot of money on this, and then you go to motor school with that motorcycle,
Wow.
and now you're getting dumped over.
Oh,
you know,
man.
You're dumping it over, falling over. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm scratching this thing up, right? So
Yeah.
you get very intimate with your motorcycle,
Got
falling
it.
down, having to pick it back up, falling down, pick it back up over and over. So yeah, just I was so surprised that you would lock the handlebars out and not fall down.
Wow.
Right? So
Right.
our turns that we do, it's a full lockout. You're turning your head and you're just making the circles. You're
Wow.
making that turn. And it's almost like that first experience with the 18-wheeler. Once you get through it and you do it, you're like, oh, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
I can get through that.
Yeah.
So that was I think that's probably, you know, it's all circles, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
You know, every turn is just either a half circle or a full circle. So it's all getting used to doing that. And once you get it down, you're good.
Okay.
Get over that feeling.
That feeling, you know, of falling.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that for me, like because again, everything I've done, I'm self-taught. I didn't know anybody that really rode, and nobody really taught me anything. I had to figure it all out. And that's why I love YouTube. And that's why one of the reasons I do YouTube, because I learn a lot from YouTube that I didn't have any other source. And so I watch a lot of guys like Robert Simmons, and there's a couple of other guys that I watch that do some. They were a motor officer, and they show some training and different things on YouTube. And so I learned a lot of things from him, especially when I got my Harley, because again, I needed to learn slow maneuvers, because there's a big difference with the weight and the way the bike can do a lot more things than what a sport bike can do as far as handling in tight spaces, things like that. And so I started watching him to learn like little techniques. And so I learned a lot from him, and I practiced them in my driveway at home and everything, because I had that back when I lived in Alvarado. I had that big circle driveway out there, and so I could make complete circles. I had spots to do figure eights, things like that. And so I learned a lot about the preloading the bike and all that. Some of it I knew, but I didn't know to the level or depths that you guys use some of those techniques. And then I would still say I'm still got a lot to learn, but you know, just even today, because this is the first, like a lot of that training that I got was watching it on YouTube. But today, when I got to see you do some of those maneuvers, actually seeing it in person and seeing how you really locked it out, and how you had just seeing it in person is a little bit different than seeing it on the video. And so I will say, just a while ago, I learned a lot from you, because that was one of my aha moments when I was watching you. Was like, man, he's locking that only slow speed maneuver and just stand there. He's got it locked all the way out, and it's just sitting there. I'm like, that seems like so like not the way it would be opposite, right? I'm trying to hold it straight in the middle and, just kind of doing this to catch my balance using my throttle and everything. And so when I saw you doing it, I was like, man, it was an aha moment, because even when I saw these guys do it on video, it's like, it didn't really click as well. And so, guys, yeah, definitely say if you get a chance to go to like maybe one of the motor rodeos, we'll talk a little about that, where you can actually see these guys in action. Like you can pick up a lot just from watching them and actually seeing it. Or if there's a class that you can go to, I highly recommend that. That's something that's on my list of things to do, is with a couple of guys, friends I got, is to go and do some of these classes. I just need to find a bike that I don't worry about dropping.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, that was cool. Okay. I can imagine that the training must have been very challenging. And are there any skills that they taught you guys in motor officer school that civilians don't typically learn, but you think they should know?
So some of the higher speed, like the brake and escape.
Okay.
So you're going down straight away and somebody pulls out in front of you, being able to brake and escape out of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's super important. Not locking it up, not sliding,
Yes.
Being able to downshift really fast. That way you can get to your first gear and be able to maneuver around whatever just jumped out in front of you.
Okay.
I don't know if we touched on this or not, but that's the main thing that we see with motorcycles is people pulling out in front of them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That left turn, they failed to yield that left turn and you're going straight, and they say that they never even saw the motorcycle.
Right.
Now, granted, maybe the motorcycle's going too fast, so I'll tell people slow down in the intersections.
Right.
And anticipate. So if you see somebody coming out of a driveway, don't expect them to stop. Expect for them to come on out.
Right.
Go ahead and slow down. Wait till they see you. Make eye contact. Same thing you would do in a car, but now it's really important because they probably don't see you. So there's something about people's brains, they don't register when a motorcycle's coming because it's generally just one light versus two.
Right.
And they just don't see us.
Yeah.
And so even us motorcycles, when we're doing escorts with our lights and sirens, people just don't see us.
Wow.
So the brake and escape is probably the most important thing that I would say that we need to learn.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the slow riding goes, if you really want to get good on a motorcycle and not be, putting your feet down and scooting around,
being timid, yep.
That would be the slow riding. If you can get good at slow riding, which is basically going as slow as you can, locking out the handlebars and keeping your feet on the floorboards, those little techniques, that skill will make you a better rider.
Oh, that's a good point. And I will say this, just kind of piggyback on that, whenever I started watching Robert Simmons and all his training courses that he had online and just showing classes and everything, I would pick up little things and I would go home. I would practice them at home. And I will tell you, I thought, obviously I felt pretty good going fast speed. Most people do. The bike kind of does a lot itself at that point. But I will say that my cornering and handling on fast speeds actually improved when I improved and learned slow speed maneuverings and cornering. And that's something that I didn't expect, I didn't realize. And so even guys that used to ride with me before I started practicing that had a lot more difficult time keeping up with me on the corners and fast, cornering and everything out in the, 35, 45, 50 mile an hour curves and things, switchbacks and things like that. Even some of these guys on the sport bikes, even when I'm on the Harley, they may be ahead of me on the straightaway, but we get in the corner and I just come right by them. And that was something that didn't happen before I started doing all of the slow maneuver training and practicing. And I would do that every day. And anytime I rode the bike, when I come home, I'd spend 30 minutes just doing that in my driveway. And it really helped me be a lot more confident with the Harley and getting in tight places. Now I still got some opportunities. And now that I'm here in the city, again, I don't have that access at home, but I still, that's not an excuse. I need to find a place to still keep practicing all that.
Yeah, and think about it. We ride those motorcycles, or we think we can ride those motorcycles anywhere. So hopping curbs, going in fields, sidewalks, wherever the suspect may lead us, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's in crowded people and they're moving around, or maybe in between cars and they're moving around. So you got to be able to go slow and get you through tight spots.
Right.
So having that control is necessary.
Yeah.
A funny story: when I first got on the motorcycle unit, there was a call down River Legacy Park.
Okay.
And she was up, or the reporting person was up in their apartment looking down over River Legacy.
Okay.
It was up near LC Odom on the north part of town.
Okay.
And they reported that they saw somebody dragging what they thought was a body.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Turns out it wasn't a body.
Okay.
But me, being on the motorcycle, I thought, well, I can just go through the trails and I'll be able to get there faster than going through the apartment complex.
Right, right.
So I start following this trail, and I'm following it, and it's concrete trail, no problem. I
Right.
keep following it, and then there's like a warning trail closed sign, and they have a fence across it, or like a pipe across it.
Okay.
I thought, well, I can get around that.
Yeah.
Went ahead, went around it, and I went up a hill, and as soon as I started coming back down the hill, guess what? The trail had fallen apart.
Oh man.
So not only had it fallen apart, but like it had washed out to the point where now I'm looking at a fall of about 15 feet.
Oh wow.
So, on a Harley, it's very hard to back up.
Yeah. Big time.
So it's super heavy, right?
Right.
And so I'm stuck at that point.
Oh my
and so
goodness.
I'm like, well, what do? I don't have reverse.
Yes.
It's too heavy to push, waddle back.
Yeah.
And so I had to, swallow my pride, call some of my motor buddies to come help me push the bike
back up.
Because if I let off on the brake or anything like that, it's just going to roll down the hill.
Yes.
It was too steep of an incline to put my kickstand down, my jiffy stand down, so I couldn't do anything. I was stuck.
Oh my goodness.
And I just sat there and be
Just
stuck.
sit there and be stuck.
And so they won't let me down on that one. They remind me that we can't go everywhere.
Yes.
And not to go past where it says warnings, right?
Right, right.
So,
Heed the warnings.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. That's a funny story. Awesome. Over time, what were some of the key lessons that you learned about riding and serving in the role as a motor unit?
It really is on us to be safe.
Okay.
You can't expect, we can put as many signs out as we want about, hey, share the road and all that, but really it's on us.
Right.
I know a lot of times we try to go faster than the crowd or try to get away from the crowds, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But if we can be more responsible riders,
Okay.
Instead of just being, daredevilish all the time,
Right.
people will have more respect for us. People will look out for us more, and maybe we can lower some of the motorcycle accidents, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of motorcycle accidents that are happening.
Okay.
And generally on a motorcycle, you don't ever win.
Right.
So that accident is going to be pretty bad for you. So if we would be more responsible, like I said before, anticipate.
Right.
Don't trust anybody, and we say that all the time as motorcycle riders. We can't trust anybody riding, or driving, but really take it to heart and just look out several, blocks ahead of you and think, well, what if that car pulled out right now? Would I be able to miss them?
Right.
Maybe I should slow down if I can't, instead of just trying to beat it.
Yeah, that's something I think all of us, and I think what happens with a lot of guys that ride motorcycles, we're tough guys. We're very aggressive guys. It's usually riding a motorcycle is not for the timid, at heart. And so I know for me and a lot of people I ride with, we may come up to that four-way stop and we're going to stop, but we're going to go pretty quickly. We're not going to wait for the car that's coming down the road a lot of times to come to a complete stop before we take off. And so it's just, I think sometimes it's part of our aggressive nature, and so I have to be mindful of that on times, because sometimes I'm super aggressive and maybe put myself in a situation that could be a little bit more difficult, other than just slowing down a little bit and taking that extra little time to stop and wait and see what that car is going to do. I'm always, you have to, as a motorcycle rider, always thinking forward about, even when I do take off, if that car doesn't stop, I am anticipating those things. But, a lot of times, I guess our nature is to think that we can get out of any situation, and sometimes it's just better not to put ourselves in that situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then the second part of your question, you said, what are some things I've learned as far as working with the public?
Okay.
So even you as not a motorcycle officer,
Right.
you ride a motorcycle and the kids see you, what do they do? They point, right? They're
Right.
like, hey, look, motorcycle. Oh, everybody likes motorcycles when they're kids.
Right.
Same thing with us.
Okay.
And so I have that opportunity a lot because they're like, hey, look, a motorcycle. Oh, and it's a cop, right? So I get that opportunity to give them a good experience.
Right. Okay.
Because, motorcycle officers a lot of times have that, reputation of being the, grumpy or writing tickets all the time. But we do get that opportunity a lot. When they're driving beside us, they'll wave at us, they'll put their window down, they want to say hi.
Yes.
And so you get that opportunity to be nice.
Yes.
To especially the little kids and to the public.
Right.
And make a good impression on them.
That's true.
So that's something that I've learned.
Yeah, I can see that. I could see where, again, you see the guys in the cars, the motor officers in the cars and everything, and it's like, you see them, but it's not as a big a deal. But when you see a police officer on the bike, like, it's just a cool experience thing to see. And then especially when you guys are together, the way y'all move as a unit together, it's really cool to watch and see, no matter who you are. Even if you don't have a passion for motorcycles, you got to kind of respect and be like, man, look how tight they're moving in unison and all of that. So it's really cool. So, and I know every time I'm in a place and I see you guys, I'm always wanting to come up and talk to you and just kind of chat about the bikes and y'all experience. And so I'm still like that little kid when I see the motor officers. I light up, anytime I get a chance to talk with them. And so it's always great when they're super friendly and take the time to just say hi, talk to us and everything. So yeah.
Yep.
So man, it's amazing to hear all the stories, how much you learned, what you had to go through the class and all of that. So tell us about maybe a unique experience where maybe something crazy happened where you had to give chase, or you had to do an arrest, or some crazy encounter on the bike, or something you guys see on the streets that we don't come across every day.
So it's kind of a funny story. So once you get out of the 2-week motor school,
okay,
then you ride with another senior motor officer for several weeks.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like you're in a training time.
Okay.
Well, I was maybe the first week outside of my training. So I'm done with motor school. I'm done with having the senior officer with me.
Okay.
The corporal with me, and now I'm on my own.
Okay.
And so I'm riding around, just kind of getting used to my new area. And the Whataburger ketchup package, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you take that top little piece of tin foil off. And most people, whatever they do, they lick it. It's got a little bit of ketchup on it. What happens? I'm riding beside this car, and one of those comes out, flicks out, sticks on my motorcycle.
Oh man!
So I'm like, look at this. That's littering, right?
You're right.
So I go ahead and pull her over.
Yeah.
I get up to the passenger side, because there's a passenger that
threw it out.
And I said, does this belong to you? Sure enough, she's in there in the middle of eating her Whataburger, right? I was like, can I go ahead and get your license? I got her identified. Immediately when I got her identified, the red light's going off.
Oh, wow.
She's got warrants for meth.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, okay, this is more than I thought. I thought it was going to be like a littering ticket, right?
Right.
And then, so the driver at that point, I'm like, can I get your license too? Even though it wasn't her that threw it out. But I'm like, do you mind if I get your license? Sure enough, she's got warrants for actually manufactured delivery of methamphetamine.
Oh my goodness.
So as I'm getting them out of the car to arrest them, in her bag, she's got meth. That ends up being a big, huge meth bust right there.
Wow.
Just off of the little piece of tinfoil on top of the Whataburger.
That's crazy.
Ketchup. So you never know.
Wow, that's crazy that you ended up getting somebody that's out there that's got warrants, been in trouble just on something of that, but you got to basically clean up the streets on something like that, more than just the little trash litter.
So I was thinking to myself, I got this brand new motorcycle, and she's flicking this thing out on ketchup on my motorcycle.
On the bike, right? Like no respect, not even looking, like right in front of an officer.
Yep.
Wow. So man, that's crazy. That's an interesting story. So it sounds like no 2 days are the same. So what do you think sets being a motorcycle officer apart from just the regular officer that rides and the cars, everything's like that?
So I'd say So self motivation.
Okay.
So we got to go out there and find work instead of it being a responsive. We're proactive.
Okay, got
So
it.
a lot of the patrol officers, they're waiting for a phone call or they're waiting for the 911 call to be dispatched to it.
Okay.
But we're out there, actively looking for work.
Okay.
And, it might just be a traffic violation, or it could be warrants, or it could be drugs, whatever the case may be.
Got it.
Looking to try to solve some problems on the streets. So we're pretty active,
Okay.
pretty proactive. So you gotta also be able to be, trustworthy.
Okay.
With that expectation that you're going to be proactive, that you're not just going to be sitting around or doing something you're not supposed to.
Right.
Like we're out there, taking care of business and not, just goofing off, right?
Got it.
So accountability is another thing.
Okay.
Have a lot of accountability. We have escorts that you wouldn't see normally on a normal, like a normal patrol officer.
Sure. Yes.
So now some officers might shut down roads or help somebody get through an intersection or something like that, but it's not an escort.
Like a full, yeah, you like.
Yeah, we escort the NFL teams, celebrities, presidents, and all that kind of stuff. We're escorting them, which is something different. That's not something that a lot of people get to do.
Wow. Yeah. So have you done like a presidential candidate or anything like that?
Yeah.
Escort?
So Biden and Barack Obama, both of them, when they came into town.
Okay.
They're coming into Dallas, so Dallas kind of they're the main escort.
Okay.
But then we go shut down. We'll shut down a whole highway for a long time sometimes.
Yeah.
Just so they can get through safely.
Okay. Wow, man, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay. What's your opinion of like lane splitting? In California they allow it, in Texas they don't. Do you think that's something that you see happening here? Or do you what are your thoughts on it, or kind of what is the department's thought on it? Just kind of curious about that, because we are growing so much in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There's so much more traffic, so much more sitting. And so when I'm in California and you're sitting in traffic, being able to ride the motorcycle, get more cars off the road and be able to split, it seems like it helps with all of the traffic. So I just kind of wanted to know your thoughts, pros, cons, things like that.
Yeah, so in Texas it's illegal. So they passed the statute that it's illegal, so you can't do it here. That being said, I can see where it would be beneficial when there's a lot of traffic.
Right.
The only problem with it is there's no way to, it can't be either yes or no, and so it's kind of hard to monitor it. So I think it would be okay to do if you would do it safely,
right, in
a safe manner.
Right.
But then the moment that you let somebody do it safely, somebody comes behind them doing it unsafely, and that's a problem.
Right.
And it's not, it's unsafe for the motorcycle rider, but it's also unsafe for the drivers because they don't know where you're going either.
Right.
And you don't want that to be on somebody's conscience that they opened the door, turned, or did something,
right,
caused an accident. And like I said earlier, in a motorcycle accident, the motorcyclist normally doesn't win.
Yep.
So I think if there was a way to do it responsibly,
yes,
or a way to monitor it so that it was done responsibly, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. But I don't see that happening.
Don't see it happening here.
Too many people just want to do it recklessly, and it causes problems.
Right. Yeah, I wish there was a way that we could, in situations where there's heavy traffic or traffic that is moving at a speed under 15 miles an hour or something like that, that we could have that rule, because obviously on the motorcycle, if you're in Texas in the heat, stopped in traffic that's going to be sitting for hours, I mean, one, the risk to the rider, because you're so hot on the bike, sweating, and especially when we have older gentlemen that are riding the bikes, things like that. And then the other thing is damage to the bike, overheating. So in those situations, it would be nice if we could, split that lane or get on the shoulder just to get ourselves out of that situation. I would love to see that, but I do understand what you're saying, that there are some people that take advantage of it and abuse it and go too fast, splitting lanes when it's not even a situation where they would need to even split lanes. And I see that some mornings up here when I'm coming back home from the gym. and the guy's just going like way too fast to be splitting lanes. So what's some of the most essential gear that you feel like as, not just even as we understand for as a Arlington motor officer should be wearing, but civilians like us out there riding? Obviously we're in Texas, it's really hot. Like, what would you say, like some of the most essential gear that maybe we might not think about or that we should wear?
Yeah, I would say, us as police officers, we're going to wear the helmets, glasses, gloves, and boots. Like, we have to wear those.
Okay.
But I could see situations, especially when it's hot in the summer, you might not want to wear a helmet, or maybe you're doing a quick trip somewhere. But those glasses, I think you're always going to need those glasses, because you never know when a bug's going to hit you or the wind hits you just right. You can't see. You don't want to have to be turning away and not be able to see where you're going.
Right. No, especially on the highway for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and it's one of the things, like it's very much so a personal decision on where. I'm glad that it's a personal decision. But, it's one of those things that you have to, take that risk, so to speak, of a motorcycle, something happening. And so, like, for me, I know my essential thing is a helmet. Now, there have been times where I'm taking little short rides or just doing some filming and things like that where I might not wear a helmet. But whenever I'm really riding, I wear a helmet just because, again, my background in physical therapy, assistance, and kind of doing therapy with people that had head trauma, I know how that can really change somebody's life. So that's why, I like to encourage guys to wear some type of head protection when they're riding. But, again, I understand some guys don't, and I totally respect that freedom of choice to be able to not wear it. I just recommend guys, because I have friends that don't ride with helmets, I just recommend, make sure you have some type of life insurance, so that way, like you said, you can think about others, your family, and things like that. And it's very much an individual choice. But also, if you're married and have kids, I think that's some any guy should discuss with their spouse, significant other, and just make sure they're prepared just in case, because, heaven forbid something happens, but you want to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And as far as when talking about gear and motorcycle, like training, things like that, advancements, any advancements that you see coming or hear coming for you guys?
I've seen a lot of the departments, because they have these motor breeches, which are the pants that go inside the boots. But I've been seeing a lot of the other agencies, especially when they go to the metric bikes or the BMW bikes.
Okay.
They're wearing the long pants. They have they're super enforced, the thicker pants.
Okay.
With the jackets and everything like that. Problem with that is it's just so hot.
So hot, yeah.
So I don't know that we'll go to that anytime soon. We're constantly looking for new light configurations, or brighter lights or better lights that make us see or be more visible. We're constantly looking at that and trying to improve on that on our motorcycles.
Okay.
Our comm systems, we could always do some better. Sometimes it's hard for us to hear each other when we're going fast.
Right.
With the wind noise and trying to coordinate and escort. So that's something that we're constantly trying to look at and get better at.
The equipment, and see what else is coming, the latest and greatest. Yep. Okay. And then when it comes to, like, speaking of kind of gear, equipment, things like that, what is your thoughts on the reliability of the Harley Davidson? Because you guys been doing Harleys for a long time. You all ride them. Like, that's always that day-old question. People try to say that Harleys are not that reliable, but a lot of advancements have come with Harleys, and so just kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were and experience.
Yeah, from my experience, we only have one battery in our bike, in our motorcycle. I know there's other agencies that will put 2 batteries in there to help with this. Mm-hmm. But for us, space is kind of, we like to have the space. And so we run with 1 battery.
Okay.
And so if I am stopping traffic and I'm going to have to use my vehicle with lights on, or my motorcycle with lights on, and I don't leave it running, all those lights will drain down that 1 battery.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
yeah.
So in order to keep that from happening, I have to sit there and keep my motorcycle running.
Okay.
So that the lights don't drain the battery. So I've been on situations where I'm closing down a road for an hour or so, letting it run so the battery doesn't die.
Right.
in 100-degree weather, and the motorcycle's still doing just fine.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
I've got coming up on 63,000 miles on my motorcycle, and those are hard miles. These are not just cruising miles. These are chasing down people, 100-degree weather, sitting there idling for long periods of time.
Man, that's crazy, yeah.
So I've got a lot of miles and a lot of hours on that motorcycle, and it's still running great.
Man, that's good. I mean, that's good to hear and good feedback, because here in Texas, 100-degree weather for months, and having that bike running like that, just sitting still, and it's air cooled because your bike, right, it's not water cooled.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so wow, that's pretty good. And so I think where we see a lot of those reliability problems that sometimes people don't realize is when people go in and start having people upgrade the engine, bore out the engine, things like that, is where we start to see some of those reliability issues show up on the heat cycles with the bikes. And so, yeah, that's good kind of hearing that from you guys, because you guys are riding it kind of more so stock or stage 2, but you're running them and letting them sit there running the heat, and they're not having any issues. And that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about what's some of the strangest things that like maybe you transport on a motorcycle, or that you've seen out there riding people transporting on a motorcycle.
Yeah, I haven't really seen anything real weird. Of course, I've seen the videos of other countries and the pictures of people transporting animals or weird animals or whatever.
Yeah.
But a couple years back, whenever PS5s were first coming out, they were really hard to get. Buddy of mine, I think he accidentally ordered 2.
Okay.
So he had 2 of them, and he's looking to get rid of one of them.
Yeah.
So he's there in town. He's like, "Hey, if you got the cash, come get it."
Yeah.
Like, all right, well, I can give you the cash, but I'm on my motorcycle.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were strapped to the back of my motorcycle, was a PS5.
PS5.
So now I'm going down the street with a PS5 box, and at that time, those things were worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
People was like, "Hey, what are you doing with that PS5?" Right? So,
right. Yeah, because I remember, I think they were selling for like $600, but people were buying them for like $1,000, because they couldn't get them. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the weirdest thing I've strapped to the back of the motorcycle.
Okay, got it. That's pretty cool. A buddy of mine, I guess about a month ago, he went and bought a seat somewhere, and he was on his bike, and so then he had to like transport one seat in his lap while driving. So he was telling me that, so it made me think of that question. Okay, so let's see. Do you name your motorcycles? Have you done that?
I haven't. I probably should.
Yeah.
Right. So that I could give her a name. It had to be a her.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I haven't done that, but I'll need to.
Yeah, I haven't been one of those guys. Like, I don't really name. I've never named my motorcycles, and I thought about it once. Tried to name one of mine a little bit, but nothing ever really stuck. And so I had a couple of trucks that we named. We called it Megatron just because of how big it was with the big lifted tires and all of that. But never been much of that guy either. But I know it's a big thing, especially in the Harley world. A lot of people name their bikes. Other thing, like, do you do the whole bell thing? I mean,
I don't, but most of the other officers do.
They do. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So. And I get it's kind of a tradition thing and more of a respect and kind of remember. Speaking of, you were telling me something about the pin that you have?
Yeah, so this actually dates way back. So it's the winged wheel is what it's called.
Okay.
So whenever you get through motor school, you earn your wings on your wheel.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So it's actually, I think it goes back to like ancient Greek and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
But more currently, it's in the military.
Okay.
They started adding the military, the motorcycles to the military, to the army.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The patches they had was a winged wheel.
Okay.
So it signifies swiftness, movement, transport, speed, and all that kind of stuff. So
oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
that's where that comes from.
Yeah. So once you graduate, you kind of get pinned and get that pinning. Oh, that's cool.
It.
Yeah.
So if you see this, that means that they're a motor officer.
They're a motor officer. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay, and then let's see. And speaking of that, what would you like to? Anything you could say to like anybody that's aspiring to be a motor officer, be a police officer, thing like that?
So I mean, I'd say the biggest thing is just stay out of trouble. Getting into the wrong crowds. Everybody's got those high school, college age. You look back at it and you're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done all that.
Right.
And sometimes it gets bad enough where it disqualifies you.
Oh, wow.
So worst thing, we had people applying to be a police officer, great people, good, smart kids or whatever the case may be. And all of a sudden we find out in their background check that they got in trouble doing something.
Yeah.
And especially for our motorcycle riders out there that maybe they ran from the cops or something like that.
Yes.
It's a felony offense.
Yeah,
right?
So don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't run from the cops. Not worth it. The worst you're going to get is a ticket, right?
Right.
So I'd say stay out of trouble and get to know some cops.
Yeah.
I know for me growing up, I never really knew any cops. So find out what they're doing, get their opinion on things, ask them about it. The lifestyle is different.
Right.
You're working weird shifts. It's a different. It's just a different world.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of all of that, just kind of like that training and thinking about what you want to do in the future. I mean, I think it's one thing that I think we want to get into is about like how many motor officers you guys have and kind of, if you're thinking about becoming a police officer just to be in a motor officer, how, difficult it is to be able to do that and how it may be a while, or just kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so for the most part, once you get into the motor unit, you don't ever want to leave.
Okay.
It's the best spot in the department.
Okay.
And so there's only 16 of us plus 2 motors in Arlington. That's out of like 600 officers.
Wow.
Or 600 police officers. So you got to wait for somebody to retire, promote, unfortunately, die or whatever the case may be in order for a spot to open up.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be ready to go whenever those spots do open up. And, one of the main prerequisites is to be an active officer.
Okay.
So you got to be out there stopping traffic, doing investigations, trying to find the bad guys.
Right.
Taking care of your beat. So if you're just been somebody who's been kind of lazy and when the spot opens up, all of a sudden, I didn't have enough, I didn't look as good as the other guy or the other girl because they were always making lots of traffic stops. So
right.
On your downtime, if you're on midnights in the middle of the night and you have downtime because it's cold, because it's dark and nobody's out,
right,
make some traffic stops.
Right.
That shows activity.
Yeah.
And then you also got to, show that you're accountable for your work. Show that you're, not getting in trouble or, cussing out the community all the time. They don't want to have those problems because motor officers are very visible and they're very active and they're very interactive with the community.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good advice. And because that's something I was thinking about is like, a lot of, that'd be cool. A lot of guys probably want to do it, but you really need to love being a police officer first and foremost, and that's be a second benefit because with 600, officers and only 16 on the motorcycles, like it could be a while, and so you don't want to get into it thinking you can just skip right to it.
I was, like I said, about a 5-year officer before I was able to get in. And it just so happened the spots opened. I was already in a unit where I was able to be very proactive already, so. I was able to get in.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then would you say it's easy to do as far as the training or hard I know we talked a little bit about it can take some time, so we know that's part of the biggest part of it is just time and experience. But yeah, anything else as far as that goes?
So I don't know that we've ever had anybody in Arlington and maybe I'm wrong, but just fail, not able to pass through the training or the motor school. But I do hear, because Dallas obviously is a lot bigger, they get a lot more applicants, and they have people that fail their motor school.
Oh, wow.
So it's possible that you fail out, but generally with us, since we're able to kind of pick and choose, we're able to find somebody that's already got a motorcycle license. We don't have to go get them their motor. It's not the first time they've ever ridden a motorcycle.
Right.
So I think in those situations, if this was the first time you've ever gotten on a motorcycle, 2 weeks is not enough time.
No, it's not.
Right?
I can definitely see that. Because motorcycle riding is one of those things that it does take some experience, some getting used to, and then, having at least some good basic skills. Yeah. As far as like any new gear that are coming to any of the police departments or for you guys, or
well, I mean, we're getting, maybe not gear, but we're getting 3 new officers. So we've had 3 vacancies for a while. We had somebody promote, somebody retire, and unfortunately last year we had an officer ran over and killed in an accident. So we've had those 3 vacancies for a while, And so we're getting 3 new motor officers here in Arlington. So
Okay, that's cool.
You'll be seeing them out in the streets probably come February or March-ish. So,
Okay.
So as far as new gear, we're moving all of our, not considered motors, but all of our vehicles are moving over to Tahoe. So you'll see less and less Chargers on the streets. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's just, we had the GM plant right here, so maybe it's some type of contract
situation. Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, but we're moving everything to the Tahoes.
Yeah.
Other than that, we just recently, not real recently, but within the last couple of years, we got a new chief, so we can have beards now. We have relaxed tattoo policies.
Okay, yeah.
We can wear a cowboy hat.
Yeah, that's cool.
So those are all some changes that happened recently.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I like that kind of more. I mean, lenient on certain things and kind of being able to, have more of your personality. Like, because those restrictions, because especially nowadays, I love my beard. I don't know anybody that want to get rid of a beard. Okay, and so as far as on the road, any weird things happen? Like, you ever been chased by like a dog or something on the motorcycle? Or had to avoid hitting something crazy, while riding?
Every once in a while, you'll pass by the chain link fence and you'll have the dog chasing you. But I've never had one like on my heels or anything like that. I have a neighbor. I live in a Circle neighborhood, and they're elderly neighbors, and they have big dogs, and they're always out there walking their dogs. And unfortunately, these dogs almost never like motorcycles.
Right.
So every time, the first time I went to drive by her, the dog took off and caused her to fall, right? So after that, now every time as I'm going out of my neighborhood, I know I'm looking forward to see if she's there. If she is, I go the other way so that I don't have to cause her to struggle with the dogs.
Yeah. So. No, that's true, because my dog, she loves chasing motorcycles. And even when I lived on the land, I get on a dirt bike and sometimes work out. We just have fun. She loves chasing it. So she chased the motorcycle with me on the dirt and everything for exercise. And even now, like if I go right now, she hear that boop boop, she's up, she's ready to go. And it's funny because she just does it when I get ready to leave, and when I come home, she's not. She kind of like, oh, he's back, But for whatever reason, when I leave, she gets excited when she hears the bike. Anything that you had to avoid on the road hitting?
I'm trying to think. Not besides other people pulling out in front of me.
Pulling out in front of you.
I don't like it when they stop past the white line, if that makes sense. So the designated stopping point, and if you've ever been on a motorcycle driving and you see that person coming and it looks like they're not going to stop.
Right.
It looks like they're going to pull out right in front of you.
Yes.
Until they see you and then they stop.
Yeah.
Well, there is a designated stopping point. It's either behind the stop sign or behind that big giant white line.
Right.
So that's one of my pet peeves. If I see somebody that happens to me, I'll flip around on them and go get them.
Yeah.
That's causing anxiety to the motorcycle community.
For sure. And it's just a bad habit. Like, you should stop right before the white line. It's a big, thick line, you know. So, I get it. And that's, the thing, we just got to be safe and watch for those things out there, because people, there's so many distractions now for people on the road with the phones and all the electronics on the cars nowadays. People have so much going on. They got the headsets in, things like that. So we got to really be aware, because there's so many ways for people to be distracted nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been amazing, Officer Merritt. We're so grateful for you to come out and take the time out. And we're thankful for the Arlington PD for allowing you to do this interview with us and show us some things on the motorcycle and the maneuvering, and also being able to tell us things about the police department, safety, things that we should look out for. And so this has been very informative. And so I'm just grateful for you coming out and spending the time.
No, I'm thankful to be here too. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being out there and putting more information out to the motorcycle community, because we all need it. We're always trying to get better drivers.
That's right. And we appreciate it, and it's been a pleasure. All right, so normally I say RJ out, but I'm gonna let you say Officer Merritt out.
Officer Merritt out.
Awesome. All right, well, you guys stay tuned. We got more content coming. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. It's been a wonderful event, and we got many more coming. So subscribe, make sure you watch, like, give us feedback, any things that you want to comment on, things that we talked about in the video. Let's interact, and everybody interact with each other in this community. And let us know other things that you would like to see on here, or any other interviews that you'd like to see coming forward, so we can schedule those for you and keep bringing great content. All right. Have a blessed day. We're out.